You are lying in bed right now, not sleeping, not quite awake, just existing in that strange, dark pocket between the two. Your phone is face down, the room is quiet, and somewhere in the back of your mind something is moving. A thought, an idea, maybe a solution to something that's been bothering you for weeks. It arrives without effort, without invitation. And for a moment before you reach for your phone or close your eyes harder, you think, where did that come from? That question has a real answer. And it goes back further than you think. Roughly 70,000 years ago, something shifted in the human brain. Scientists call it the cognitive revolution. Behavior changed, art appeared, symbolic thinking exploded. But buried inside all of that is something smaller, something almost invisible in the fossil record. A change in how ancient humans related to the night. Not just sleeping through it, something stranger than that. Here's what most people assume. They assume that ancient humans slept the way we sleep. 8 hours, one long block. Darkness falls, eyes close, morning comes, clean, efficient, biological clockwork. That assumption was wrong. Very wrong. In 2001, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health published a study that quietly rewrote everything. He removed artificial light from a group of modern volunteers. No screens, no bulbs, just natural darkness for 14 hours a night, mimicking pre-industrial conditions. Within weeks, every single participant shifted to the same sleep pattern. They slept for about 4 hours, woke up, lay still in the dark for 1 to 2 hours, then slept again for 4 more hours, without being told to, without trying. Their bodies just remembered something ancient. The researchers called the middle waking period the watch. Historians who found references to it in medieval texts called it the first sleep and the second sleep. But whatever you call it, the implication is the same. The middle of the night was not dead time. It was time that belonged to something else. The oldest hard evidence of humans treating nighttime as something other than unconsciousness comes from a site in South Africa. Blombos Cave on the southern coast, excavated extensively by archaeologist Christopher Henshelwood of the University of Bergen. Beginning in the late 1990s and continuing into the 2000s, Henshelwood's team uncovered ochre-engraved stones, abstract geometric patterns, shell beads, art, symbols, evidence of a mind doing something beyond survival. These artifacts date to approximately 75,000 to 100,000 years ago. And here's the part nobody thinks about. Blombos Cave faces the ocean. It gets cold at night on that coast. The evidence of controlled fire inside the cave suggests these humans were awake, active, and mentally alive after dark. They weren't doing this in daylight. The art, the beads, the symbolic thinking that these objects represent. This cognitive richness was likely happening in firelit darkness. What Henshelwood's team found wasn't just old art. It was proof of a brain that had learned to use quiet, dark, slow time for something that daylight couldn't offer. The distraction of survival, finding food, watching for predators, navigating social groups, that all fell away at night. And in that space, something else got to breathe. Pattern recognition, abstract connection, the ability to hold an idea and turn it over and look at it from a different angle. The fire gave them just enough light to stay awake. The darkness gave them everything else. Think about what that means for 70,000 years of human nights. Not sleep, not full wakefulness, something in between. The second piece of this story complicates the first one, because you might assume the middle of the night wakefulness was spiritual, meditative, a quiet, peaceful thing. And sometimes it was. But historian Roger Ekirch of Virginia Tech spent 2 decades documented in his 2005 book, At Day's Close, Night and Times Past, cataloging references to segmented sleep across thousands of historical documents, court records, diaries, medical texts, literature. He found references to the watch in sources across Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America, in almost every culture that left written records before the industrial era. And what struck him was what people said they did during that time. They talked, they had sex, they prayed, they interpreted their dreams while the dreams were still fresh. But most consistently across dozens of cultures and centuries, they thought, writers wrote, craftsmen solved problems they had been stuck on. People lying in the dark, not asleep, not fully awake, reported insights that had not come to them during the day. Ekirch found references to this in the writing of John Locke, who spoke of night thoughts as distinct in quality from day thoughts. In the medical texts of ancient Rome, where physicians recommended the watch as a time of heightened mental clarity. In the letters of ordinary people, who described waking at night and finding answers. This was not accidental. The human brain in that hypnagogic, half-lit state processes differently. The default mode network, the part of your brain that activates when you stop focusing on anything in particular, runs loudest in that space between sleep and waking. It makes unexpected connections. It links things your conscious, task-focused, daytime brain would never allow to touch each other. Ancient humans didn't know the neuroscience, but they knew the feeling, and they learned to trust it. Here's what nobody talks about. In 2021, a study published in Science Advances by researchers at the Paris Brain Institute and MIT changed the conversation about creative thinking and sleep. The team, led by Delphine Oudiette and Kathleen Shanahan, studied a specific stage of sleep called N1, the lightest transitional phase, the edge of sleep, the hypnagogic state. They found that people who were in N1 when they were given math problems were 3 times more likely to discover hidden rules in the problems than people who stayed fully awake or fell into deeper sleep 3 times. The liminal state, the edge, the threshold, the almost asleep, was not wasted time. It was the most generative cognitive state the human brain has access to. Thomas Edison knew this. He reportedly napped in a chair holding steel balls in his hands. When he drifted into sleep, the balls would drop, the noise would wake him, and he would immediately write down whatever had been moving through his mind in the seconds before. Salvador Dali did the same thing with a key. They were not being eccentric. They were doing, intuitively, what ancient humans had been doing by firelight for tens of thousands of years. Catching the state that your modern life, with its artificial light and alarm clocks and pressured sleep schedules, is designed to destroy. You have been robbed of something your ancestors considered essential, not by accident, by electricity, by the industrial demand for synchronized labor. Gas lamps in the 1800s pushed bedtimes later. Electric light in the early 1900s collapsed, segmented sleep almost entirely within a single generation. The watch disappeared, and with it went the nightly window into the deepest, most creative part of your mind. Think about this. Every major breakthrough in human cognition, the moment art appeared, the moment symbolic thinking emerged, the moment language became abstract enough to imagine things that don't exist yet, all of it happened in a species that spent 1 to 2 hours every single night in a half-waking state with no distractions, no tasks, and nothing to do but let the mind move. Was that a coincidence? Was the cognitive revolution at least partially built in the dark? We don't know, and we can't fully know. That's the part nobody has figured out yet. You're still in bed. It's quiet. Maybe you woke up a few hours ago and couldn't sleep and checked your phone and forced yourself back under. Or maybe this is the first time you've thought about what that wakefulness actually was. Your body was not malfunctioning. It was not anxiety. It was not a disorder. It was something inherited. A nightly clearing. A cognitive window that opened automatically, reliably, every night for 70,000 years, in which your ancestors learned to use for everything that daylight couldn't hold. The idea you had last night in the dark, half asleep, that wasn't random. That was the oldest technology your brain has. It's just waiting for you to stop treating it like a problem to be solved.